Thanks for tuning in to the Trap House Podcast. Now, a quick word about our sponsors. We have Duke Traps. Check out duketraps.com. Duke manufactures over 40 different models of cage traps, coil spring traps, long spring traps, and body grip style traps. Also, my personal favorite, they have the Duke dog proofs. They come powder coated, perfect on the line. Check out duketraps.com and you won't be disappointed. We have J3 Outdoors, maker of the Hags Bracket, all American made products. Check out their website, j3o.com, and you will not be disappointed. They have everything from your bait holders, your spring clips, your tail hooks, the universal locks, the list goes on. Especially if you're a water trapper, you want to check this website out. That's j3o.com. We also have Top Lot Stretcher Company with us. Check out their website at toplotstretcherco.com. Top Lot Stretcher Company handles all your wooden stretcher needs, along with pelt handling supplies and trapping supplies. Check out their website at toplotstretcherco.com. And representing all the girls in the trapping world, we have Trapping Girl Inc. with us. Check out their website, trappinggirlinc.com. They have awesome apparel for the females. There's also kids apparel, lures and baits, things you could use out in the field. Check out their website, trappinggirlinc.com. And there's only one true way to start out the trap line in the morning, and that's with a nice hot cup of coffee from traplinecoffee.com. Check out their numerous collections. They have Trapline Blend, a Kodiak Blend, and my favorite, a Cherry Red Blend, all available at traplinecoffee.com. Also, be sure to check out Weeby Knives. That's weebyknives.com. They have skinning knives, fleshing knives, all your fur handling tools. Check out weebyknives.com. Need a place to sell your fur? Check out Groenewald Fur and Wool Company. They're the largest and most experienced direct receiver of wild fur with over 50 plus years of experience. Their website is gfwco.com. And last but not least, Hoosier Trapper Supply. Check out our website, HoosierTrapperSupply.com, home of the Top Dog Predator Bait and Jet Fuel Predator Lure. We got all your trapping needs, trapping scents and baits, deer scent, and apparel. Check out HoosierTrapperSupply.com. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Trap House Podcast. We got Stu Miller back with us. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, good to be here.
Coon
Creek Outdoors.
Coon Creek Outdoors. I don't even need to say that part. Everyone knows. But we should check in with you like at least twice a season, probably, because you're always up to something crazy. But yeah, we just kind of wanted to see what was going on. How's your trapping season going? And you've been posting some cool stuff online, and just kind of chat about it.
Yeah, no, it's been a fun season. You know, this is I don't know, you guys probably do the same, but I mean, it's obviously with the fur market, I'm not going full bore. I mean, I'm not trapping for numbers per se. So I'm just out enjoying. I mean, I'm having fun with it. I don't have near the sets out that I normally would. I'm not running near the line that I normally would, but I'm trying different things, and I don't know. I'm just having fun. So yeah, it's been fun.
Sometimes, yeah, the lower fur prices kind of they take some of the pressure off to push yourself that hard, and you're right, it does make it more fun, and in general, there's less people out there, so that makes it more fun too.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess honestly, I don't deal with the people per se so much because everything I trap's private land. So, you know, there's no right of way trapping and I don't have public land accessible to me. But as far as, I mean, you know, whenever I go for what I call numbers, you know, it's in and out of the truck a whole bunch of times. And I mean, it's work. It really is. And now, you know, it's just, I'll go set out a half dozen sets here, a dozen sets here. And I mean, I drug tires out to a cornfield this year to try that. So, I mean, I drove around for 2 days with tires strapped to the camper shell of my truck. So yeah, just I would never do that normally, you know, just different things like that. So,
yeah. So did the tire set pay off?
You know, I never caught a coyote in it. And I only did it just for that video, just for that little line that week. I never did catch a coyote in it. I caught a bobcat. And I caught, I don't know, a few coons in it. So I mean, I know they'll work. Obviously, I just never did catch a coyote in it. Which is kind of what I had set for. I intended on using that thing more for a drag because I trap a lot of like farm field roads and agricultural roads. So I mean, they're not county roads, but there are good halfway maintained roads by the farmers, and sometimes it's a pain to get a stake drove in there. So my whole idea was if I could use the tire for a drag, and I don't know. I had one coon and he drug that tire a good long ways on some frozen ground. He drug that sucker like 30 feet into the timber. So I may have to rethink that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You guys will probably go the same way. Everybody's trying to look for this magical set. And the reason the tire thing works is because they have to step down with so much pressure. They've only got, I was using little bitty trailer tires off my boat. So, I mean, if they put their foot inside that tire, they're stepping on the kill area. But I mean, it's just cool to roll up and, well, there's a tire sitting there and there's a critter sitting next to it too. So
Yeah.
it's not really practical for any kind of numbers line. But yeah, it's just cool to play around with.
Yeah.
There was a couple seasons ago, I was kind of thinking of this the same way, just kind of messing around and having fun. And there happened to be just a tire there in the ditch. I was like, I'm gonna try one of these tire sets, and I put it out, and it just bugged me so much. Like the next day, I was like, I don't need this tire. I threw the tire out of the way. I didn't like you were putting the trap inside the tire. I think the first day I just moved the tire and just used it as backing as a visual. So now the set was out of the tire in front. Then by the second day, I just totally said this is dumb and kicked it off.
Oh, you feel dumb driving away from that the first time you said it. There's
Well,
no doubt.
you caught a bobcat, so
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, it works simply just. I mean, it's curiosity. I don't want to say curiosity killed the cat, but I mean, there's tires all over, and all the road ditches and everything else. A lot of guys will line, for erosion control with them around here. So I mean, it's not something that they've never seen before, but it's another thing to try to get them to put their foot right where you want. And I mean, I think that's really all it comes down to. And that no different than say like a deep trench set or a big step down set. I mean, you're forcing that animal to put his foot right where you want him to be, as opposed to like a flat set, where they can kind of walk all the way around and, if you don't do it ever kind of blocking or guarding or anything like that. So,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it worked. Kind of.
What else have you experimented with?
So right now I'm actually playing around. We've just got enough ice here where I can start messing around with it. I messed around with it a little bit last year, and I have in previous years, but we can't cable restrain or use snares here. So I really want to get good and consistent with catching coyotes on the ice. I don't know how you guys, but like as soon as it freezes up here, all our little creeks, and normally whenever we get a big freeze like this, it always comes right after a big bunch of rain, because we're always kind of on that tail end of the storm. So our creeks were pretty much dry this year up until about a week or so ago, whenever we had a bunch of rain right before this big cold snap. So now all these little ditches and stuff that haven't had water in them for several months now have water in them, and it froze so quick that now they're staying halfway full. And I checked some today, and we've got about 2.5 inches of ice. And last year I messed around with this a little bit too, where I was actually digging out a bowl in the ice and anchoring a trap through the ice and catching stuff right on the ice, because as soon as that ice gets hard enough for them critters to walk, they're going up beeline right down the middle of that creek. I mean, it's like a highway for them. And, a lot of times you can't pull them from one side to the other because the steep banks of the creeks, it's either frozen sand, which I mean is just a solid block of frozen sand because of all the moisture, or there's steep banks that you can't put in a normal set. So I've been doing this for a number of years, trying to perfect it, so to speak, of actually trying to anchor down through the ice and foothold coyotes on the ice. So I'm gonna get them a few more sets out tomorrow, and hopefully it'll work. I've caught a couple before, but I'm not gonna say I'm proficient at it yet.
So I mean,
snaring would be ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
obviously. I mean, pinch them down and cable restrain them or snare. I mean, you'd be golden. You know, that's the only bad part about like right now, this time of year. Either you're chiseling down through frozen ground because, like I said, we had all that moisture, so that ground it's like concrete or asphalt for 4 or 5 inches. So you're either running strictly hay sets, you know, where you can get that trap up out of the ground and not really bed it, so to speak, or you're taking a hammer, a chipping hammer, and chiseling a bed in to be able to bed your trap. So, you know, in situations like that, yeah, you're doing a lot of extra work as opposed to just being able to run a bunch of cable restraints or snares, and that's what, you know, sucks, especially, you know, in Illinois, because for a guy that's not going to go to that work, you know, you're down however many days until it thaws out for your 90-day trapping season. So it really limits you, you know. And I don't know how you guys are, but you know, we, like I said, we live in the asshole of the country, so we get these giant swings of, you know, temperature fluctuations where it'll rain and then it'll freeze and then it'll thaw. You know, like by the end of the week, it's supposed to be in the 40s again. So it's not like we're gonna stay consistent cold. You know, we'll warm up and then we'll get muddy. Just got to adapt to the different ways, and trying to maybe foothold a few through the ice is one way that I've been trying over the years. So
we deal with the exact same thing. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
consistency to it at all, you know. So of course this fall, if you were dirt hole trapping, it was pretty nice and dry, and you know, it was
that was the best year in memory as far as consistent, because it never rained, you know. I mean, not to what was it, maybe December, early second week of December. So you had almost a month this year of good weather, you know, that you could really get going. So
right.
Yeah, it just sucks because, like I said, you got a 90-day season, and these big cold snaps like we get right now, that's whenever the critters they really get to running. You know, especially your predators, you know, because they gotta feed. They don't hole up like the coons, you know. So if you can be out there and if you can stand to be trapping it and find a way to trap in it, you can do pretty good, you know.
Yeah. So going back to your setting on the creek or in the ice, are you concealing that trap, or how you keeping it from freezing down? Or
so I've done several different methods. I've taken and actually made like a runway full of grass and hay, and you know, got them comfortable, you know, because normally, I mean, our creeks, I don't know, probably a lot like yours, they'll have a big open area and then they'll neck down, and I mean, that's where they're running. So you can neck them down. Now you just can't put one little spot there; they'll step right over that. But if you string out, you know, a 5, 6, 10 foot run of straw, they're still going to walk on it, but they're going to be comfortable enough to walk on it. Put your trap, and it's all blind sets. Everything I'm doing is pretty much blind sets. I've experimented a little bit with actually like bait holders like this. This is what I use. I call them like portable pockets, but I use these a lot whenever the ground gets real frozen. You drive them in the ground, and I've drove these in the ice before too, and tried to just make a bait holder. It's all metal, but mainly what I'm doing is blind setting. So I've put the whole trap inside of a plastic bag to try to keep it from freezing down, and I've done bedding it in. It just depends on the weather, really. I think, because I've done like the wax paper. The problem is if you're not cold enough, then during the little bit of sunlight you get, that steel will heat up and it'll sink down into the ice.
Yeah.
And then it'll freeze in. And then you have to chip your trap out because you won't catch nothing, you know.
Yeah.
But it'll actually melt itself into the ice. So that's the thing that I haven't yet perfected, is how to get that trap to consistently stay in there. If you've got solid cold temperatures all the time, that trap won't freeze in. You start with a cold trap, it won't heat up much during the daylight. But so far, the plastic bag, completely putting it in a plastic bag, has been my best way to work. But I still have, I'm not saying I've figured it out yet, because a lot of times you'll come up and that trap will just be settled into the ice. Because like right now, we only have about maybe an inch or two of snow on the ground. So you really can't like pack in the snow. Now, a couple years ago, I did this and we had about 6 inches of snow on the ground. And I was able to actually use that snow to my advantage and with a plastic bag on top of the snow, it didn't melt down into the ice so bad. So like I said, it's not a perfected method by any means. So, and I mean, I'm anchoring these suckers either with a giant drag, or I'm actually taking and chiseling a hole through the ice and running a big stick through the chain and actually anchoring them through the ice too, depending on the situation. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still playing around with it.
Yeah.
I've got a friend of mine that traps in the hardcore winter, you know, when the ground's super frozen, and it makes me nervous just looking at it. But it works and it's fine. But he uses like stakes this long for coyotes because they freeze in, but it's like it just doesn't look right, you know. But because I know here and where you're at, all we need is a little warm up, and then that's completely, you know.
Yeah.
You get one day of 40 plus and you're done, you know.
Yeah.
You're gonna get water flowing over, you're gonna get like that inch of muddy slime because the ground's gonna be frozen underneath. Yeah, so it's like I said, it's nothing that I'll just play around. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, this was land trapping. He wasn't doing it on the ice, but I mean, it was just, you know, it's like you're saying, this dealing with that extreme of weather here is definitely more challenging than some places. So,
well, yeah, I mean, it's like right now to put a hole in the ground. You know, I've built bits. I've got a steel gas drill, a gas auger drill, and I actually built my own bit. I took like one of your 3-inch flathead augers, and then I took a piece of carbide and made my bit to where I can actually eat through that frozen ground, and I can drill a hole in there too. And you know, I mean, sometimes that's what you got to have for this super frozen ground, especially if you're gonna put in a lot of sets. You know, like I said, you seen that little metal thing that I use. A lot of times that'll work for bait,
right.
but that's why everybody, you know, whenever I say those straw sets or those hay sets, that's where they can really be efficient this time of year because you can put them out fairly quick and you can have solid frozen ground, you can have wind, you can have snow, and that trap will still work. So
right.
it's just you got to adapt to your area, you know.
Right.
I got a lot of flack this year, actually. Funny little side note, but I got a lot of flack this year. So with it being super dry this year and last year, I started playing around with them little I can't even think of the name of them cotton rounds, you know, like your wife or girlfriend they use for like makeup remover.
Oh yeah.
They're just like a 2-inch cotton round. And they work great for underalls on your trap.
Yeah.
If that's what you got. But you got to have dry ground for it. You know, you can't have a lot of moisture because obviously the cotton will soak up ground. And I posted about that and I said, hey, if you guys need a quick, easy way to do this, I got so much flack about that because oh, what happens whenever it freezes? Well, you know, not everybody's dealing with your specific type of weather here, you know. So yeah, it's so situational depending on, and like you said, we're fairly close, so to speak, but there's just so much difference. I mean, you go 2 hours north of me right now, and they've got a foot of snow, and it's been minus 20, legit temperature. And you go 2 hours south of me, and they haven't really froze up, you know.
Right.
So it's just dependent on where you're at in this country, and you got to kind of adapt because it changes so much, you know. And then you just go just a little bit west, and you're in dry Kansas, you know, where you don't have to deal with some of that stuff.
Right.
Or the Dakotas, you know, or then you go up north and it's raining every day, or you know, so just so different.
Yeah, I mean everything's relative to where you're at and you know circumstances and whatever. But and I have pretty much found that you know if somebody's going to give you grief, it's going to happen online.
Oh yeah, keyboard warriors are awesome. Yeah, I feed off of those guys. So
anything else you're trying out, Stu?
Not really. Not really. I was just playing around. This year I definitely did I definitely worked the blind sets and the footholds more for the coons than I have because I wasn't really trapping for numbers so much. So I've got a couple areas that couple of trails I just decided to leave sets. I think that would be more what I've done this year than anything. Is you know, normally I'm in and out really quick within 5 to 8 days, say, And I was just curious to see. So this year I left several sets in for like 2.5 weeks. And just, I was curious to see, you always wonder how much you're actually missing, and if you don't do it during the rut, then I feel you get a little better average. Because if you're trapping, like right now during the coon rut, they're moving regardless. I mean, it's minus whatever out there right now, and there's still boars running around because it's the rut. But if you do that, and how I did it kind of in early December, I left a couple sets in for like 2.5 weeks, and there was one location in particular, one that I was actually filming. There a lot of the stuff I didn't, but I caught in a 10-day period, I caught 7 critters, and then I let it set another week, and I only caught 1 more. And so that just kind of, I was just kind of trying to prove in my head, what, if it's really worth it, because I know a lot of people, they only have limited space, so they'll just leave a set out for the whole season.
Right.
You all see people, oh, this set for 31 days and it finally caught. Okay, yeah. Well, there's no way that can be efficient or beneficial to the average person to to check a set 30 times before it catches, But yeah, it was kind of cool having that. Documenting a couple of different sets where I had one trail that I set on, and I started out with a blind set, and I caught several critters until that blind set was so blowed out because I staked hard on this particular set, and then I just went to a standard dirt hole set and just kept catching these critters moving down this one particular lone trail, and it was just kind of cool to document, to say, hey, I've caught something day after day after day, and then it did go dead. And then they let it set another week, and then you caught one thing, and say, hey, this is, for those of you guys that are doing this out here, this is kind of what you can expect. So, and generally, like I said, I don't do that. Generally, I've set, and like I'm in and out within week to 7, 8, 9 days, and then I move on. So, and I mean, I like I said, I get so many questions about stuff like that too, So that was kind of my motivation, I guess, in being able to document it. Is how long do you leave a set in? And I mean, it's all situational, obviously, if you've only got a certain plot of ground that you can trap, but if you can get in and out, I mean, to be able to show that, and not to say you can't come back this time of year either. There's lots of places that I trapped late November, actually a couple of them that I drove by yesterday, full of sign again, and it's just because of the rut is what it is. You've got those coons that are moving through. You caught the cream of the crop out back then, and now you've got a whole bunch of critter activity, because right now we're right in the rut. So
yeah. So what's your thought? What's your thoughts on the coyote traps, Stu? How long do they typically leave those out?
That is very interesting, because that was kind of a cool deal. I showed this year as well. Generally speaking, I will leave them out for, I'd say, 10 days. Mm-hmm. But that being said, a lot of what I do around here is weather dependent, because those critters really do move with weather fronts. And so if you have a stale run of weather, I'm going to leave that coyote set out a lot longer than I would if you've got a lot of different fronts moving through, where you can, those critters are moving.
Right.
Because I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions out there, is that everybody just assumes that every night these critters are running around.
Yeah.
And it's just not the case. And it's not just critters in general, but it's species. You got to break that down even more. One of those deals, just like we were talking earlier about, being regional. Our coons, they won't hole up like they do up north. Up north, those coons will hole up for a good amount of time once it really gets cold. Ours, they'll just go and they'll den up for, a week or two, and then they'll start coming out with the fronts. So I'd say I would never leave a coyote set in the ground any more than 12 days.
Yeah.
If I haven't caught him in 12 days, then I'm not, there's no reason for me to keep checking empty sets like that,
Right.
So, and around here, I don't know how you guys are, but there really is a cycle to the way that the coyotes move around.
Oh yeah.
It's not, there's a lot of dead space around here. So, you'll have a coyote. A lot of the time it seems to be like on that 6 to 8 day pattern. It seems like where they'll move through, and whether you catch them or not, a lot of times you'll see sign of them, but I mean, there'll be a lot of days where there's nothing, and then all of a sudden, boom, they move through for a day or two.
Yeah.
And then it'll go stale again for a little bit. So
yeah,
we try to hit that window.
We definitely have places like that. So we did a podcast with Paul Andizak from the Mountain Men Show, and he's a wolf trapper, and he said it actually gets really boring, the wolf trapping, just because you go so many days and don't even make a catch, and then might be 2 weeks or so, and then you'll get into them, and then it just goes stale again, but that's the nature of it, and you got to know that going into it. But so
I think that's hard for a lot of people to figure out too. It's hard for them to grasp that you got to wait.
Right.
Which I don't know. It's kind of cool because I this year I did something I hadn't done before, where I documented what was it, 9 or 10 checks I documented every single day, and it just and I did it simply just because I had the time from work to where I could check during the daylight, so I could film, rather than a bunch of night checks. So I didn't pick any great weather windows, but it just so happened that we had a bad run of stale weather during this. And so the whole time I'm sitting there talking to the camera, I'm like, these coyotes will come. Like, I promise you they will. I'm not, and, then it went, finally we had some good weather movement. And then all of a sudden, bang, 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 within 2 days,
right,
caught the coyotes on an area that had sat for a long time. And it was a consistent predator movement. So to be able to kind of document that and show that, I guess, if you will, that, it was kind of cool to see, because that's a lot of that stuff you got to do for years and years and years, I believe, to figure it out.
Yeah.
You really do, especially if you're trapping areas. I mean, I'm not saying I trap the exact same areas year after year, because a lot of mine depends on where I work. But, for a lot of people, if they trap a brand new area, they'll go in and trap it, and they may hit that just right and have just a banner first week or two. And then they go in next year and like, what happened? Because I mean, I think there is something to be said about going into a brand new, fresh area and hitting that's never been hit before versus, having kind of a managed population that you run through.
Right.
So.
No, I agree. I think, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. For guys that get so discouraged early on, they don't realize what it takes to wait out.
Right. I'm sure you get the question all the time, I've got my sets out, I know I got good attraction, all this and that, but I'm just not catching anything. It's like, what am I doing wrong? Well, you're probably not doing anything wrong. You're probably either you don't have enough traps set or enough locations set. And the biggest thing is you're just not giving it enough time, So.
Well, and that's something I tried to show this year was I didn't run a big line. I was running a small, tight line as far as square mileage wise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people, they get this misconception. That was kind of one of the reasons where I want to do like a day-to-day and document everything, because, the critters, they may move in this area and you go 15, 20 miles over here and they may have a whole totally different movement cycle, especially whenever you're talking about like small game, like coons and stuff like that. So you see, there's people, they see a post and some guys put up, giant numbers every single day. What they don't realize is how strung out this guy is actually with his line.
Right.
Versus like with me, I tried to show like I was only trapping like a 5 by 5 square mile area. My coyote sets, and I was using Onyx to kind of show my point, but my coyote sets, so during this line, I had 14 coyote sets out in 7 locations. But if I put an Onyx pin and did the line distance from point to point, I was only about 2 miles if you draw like an X from each side of it. Well, that's not that far. You're only into like 1, maybe 2 groups of coyotes.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to be into these multiple animal groups. And somebody that says, "Oh, I got 100 acres to trap." Well, yeah, that may seem like a lot of ground, but at the same time, you're not strung out. So yeah, that was kind of cool to show that. And I think a lot of people struggle with that to begin with.
Right. Yeah, that 5 square miles, and if there was only 2 miles, at best, there might be 2 coyote groups because you would only have to be on the edges of the home range. It wouldn't be,
Boundary lines.
most likely it's only one coyote group, but
Yep.
yeah, if
And
you
I
were,
did this during this, yeah, and I did this during December, so it wasn't like it was breeding season, where those coyotes will move around a lot more.
right.
One interesting thing over the last few years, I've done a lot more thermal hunting over the last few years, and one interesting thing I've been able to put together with coyotes, especially, is the territorial boundary lines that coyotes have around here. It is incredible. It is incredible to watch, and you can actually watch it with a thermal. That's a cool thing. And there'll always be some sort of feature, like a ditch or a hedgerow or something that'll stop those coyotes. And you can actually call those coyotes and watch them in, and they're not stopping because you're calling; they're stopping because of that boundary point,
Right,
between 2 packs. And then if you take it a step further and go there during the daylight and start looking around where those coyotes hit, you'll find big piles of scat and markers. And that's it. To me, it's so cool to put that together,
right,
to actually say, I mean, you can say it all you want, but actually see it in real life.
right.
But I mean, I've had multiple times where I've had coyotes come up to a certain spot and just stop there and bark at me for 5-10 minutes. And they won't go past that boundary line. And then you'll be on that same stand, and all of a sudden you'll have coyotes come from the opposite direction right into your call. Now, what I mean, I'm not there talking to them, but what would stop that one? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
there's a boundary line, and it really does exist in nature. And I don't know, it's kind of cool to see.
Yeah, they're super
Real cool.
Yeah, very cool. They're super territorial, and you hear about these home ranges and the edges of them, or the end of their particular territory, and that's very cool that you could actually document that specific spot. So yeah, that's real cool. So
Yeah, I've put together over the last few years. I've put together several locations that are like that, and like I said, whenever you put that together and then understand that the coyotes are on a cycle, moving through, it's like then you can start really putting together the pieces of the puzzle and say, at least have some, I don't know, some whenever you talk about it, be like, hey, I know what I'm talking about here. This is why. This is what you got dealing with, and
yeah,
you're not just talking out your ass,
yeah,
So.
yeah. So have you found that those maintain from year to year generally?
Generally, yes.
Okay.
With the coyotes especially now, I think one thing that changes a little bit is the crop rotation. Because we're so agriculture around here. The crop rotate, or if somebody comes in and takes out a finch or cuts a new waterway or something like that. Coons especially, not so much with the coyotes, but with the thermal. I was kind of always under the impression that I've hunted with hounds for years, right? And you tree in a den tree, and you always mark that spot. That like that's a den tree. I know that's a den tree. I can come back and call it, during the daylight. Coons especially, they won't stay in den trees year after year, especially near field edges. Now you get more so in the timber and stuff, or like next to a big creek. Yeah, that's probably going to be a spot that's going to be consistent year after year. But one unique thing with the thermal is, see, I can go and I can scan a field edge, and I can see where those coons are holing up. I can see them. And I'll tell you right now, if you've got a cornfield, you've got coons that are denning up. They're making dens during the summer months, and they're staying on that corn all winter long. And you've got a bean field, the numbers will be drastically different. I'm not saying there won't be any coons there, but I mean, you won't see near as many. So different critters like that, yeah, they move all around, and I mean, they will change. And you got a crop rotation, which is corn and beans. So a lot of the farmers will do a whole section, of corn and beans, and they'll be, divided by creeks and fence rows and stuff like that. So those coons, that population, that whole population of critters may move like a half, 3/4 mile, So that's kind of cool to see too,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Little things like that. I like to, you can share with people, and then you can also put that knowledge into practice too, like, okay, I've had this good spot, but I'm not going to worry about it this year, because that cornfield right across the road, I'd be more apt to go get permission for that one, because that's where the activity is. So it's just interesting to see.
Have you what's your thoughts on when deer season comes in and you've got, of course there's a lot of people out, and then you've got gut piles and wounded deer and people dumping whatever stuff after they get done, butchering their deer or whatever. Have you seen that affecting coyote trapping or?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because, well, you got a couple things into play. Number one, and it all depends. Like here in Illinois, our firearm seasons they're spread out by like a week. So we'll have a 3-day firearm season, and then we'll skip a week, and then we'll have a 4-day firearm season, skip a week, and then we'll have a muzzleloader season. So you've got basically the entire a month spread, basically from like mid-November to mid-December of deer seasons every other week. And then so you've got, the Orange Army hits the woods and they're out there shooting stuff and wounding stuff. So you've got everybody's got their gut piles, and then you've got the areas that are just, your dump sites. I mean, you get them wherever you are in the country. Right. Everybody goes to a big creek bottom or a big ditch away from that. They don't want to dispose of their carcass. So those just turn into hot spots. And it's hard to catch coyotes during that time of year. Yeah. It really is. I mean, why, if you had a McDonald's truck in your front, in your living room, you wouldn't go out, you wouldn't be walking to your kitchen, yeah. You'd be staying in your living room.
Yeah.
And I think the coyotes, it's the same way that time of year, because, you're not during the breeding season. There's nothing to really drive those animals to venture around, right. If they can stay close to home, why wouldn't they? So, right. Yeah, I really do. And like I said, so that, I don't know, that late November to mid-December, I guess, for around here for coyote trapping for me is definitely the hardest time. I would rather struggle more right now this time of year, whenever you got kind of a little bit of breeding and you got the cold weather that usually comes in January. They're moving around more. But then at the same time, your fur is degraded so much by now that, right. You've got to play that into effect too. So, your coons are starting to rub, your coyotes are, you got to get lucky to get a good one right now, So, yeah, it just hit or miss. But yeah, definitely the deer seasons around here played a huge impact, I believe, on the critter movement.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I'd ask a very experienced trapper about that a number of years ago, and he didn't feel that it did. But then it was like relative to where he was at, because he was in such a remote area of the Northwest, that it was like they got hunting, but not like we do here down here. I mean, like you said, the Orange Army, when they're out there, I mean, they're killing stuff for, so.
Yeah, if you were out in the middle of Kansas or, South Dakota, or like you said, even up north, in the big deep woods, they got a lot more timber up there. I could see where it wouldn't impact so much. But
right.
You got to figure, I think they killed almost 70 or just a little over 70,000 deer with the shotgun season or the firearm seasons this year.
Yeah.
That's a lot of carcasses you string out and it's
in a month.
Well, I mean, a couple counties around here, you're killing 2,000-3,000 deer.
Right.
That's a lot of free food for people, So I mean, right. You can't drive down. You go after second shotgun season around here, and you can't drive half a mile down a country road without seeing a carcass laying on the side of the road.
Right.
So, and that's not to mention all the deer that get hit, and everything else. So, right. I mean, that's, and then the bow hunters and everything else. So yeah, I truly believe it impacts way more than what people give credit for.
Yeah. And deer, I mean, coyotes are total opportunists. So whatever they've got for some sort of food source, they're on it. They don't miss a beat. So it's
yeah. I mean, you got to figure these they're out there. I mean, surviving, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to expend any more energy than what is needed to live. So if they can hole up for 4 or 5 days next to a carcass, that's what they're going to do. Right. They're not going to go out rabbit hunting for the fun of it. Right. They're not, and I think a lot of times people kind of they don't really understand that, that these critters they're every critter's opportunistic, so you gotta play to those strengths, I guess, or disadvantages, however you want to call it.
Right. Looking at your fur back there, Stu, your coons obviously they look very good as usual. I mean, you do a beautiful job on those. So you're using wood. Now, are you heating your shed 24/7 or just when you're in there? Or
It's I don't know what, maybe 45, 50 degrees in here right now. And it won't get much hotter because I've got some fleshing to do, so I'm not going to sweat whenever I'm fleshing.
yeah,
And I can still, I can still dry a coon. I don't know. Like I said, you come in here of an evening and it's going to stay warm till probably midnight in here. I don't have a super insulated shed either, so I'm not going to hold the heat for real long, but I can still dry a coon in 4 days.
okay.
3.5, 4 days. So
Yeah. What's your plans with them?
So I've got I actually got rid of quite a bit of stuff last week. That's a funny topic because, man, people want to know what you're gonna do with it. It's like,
Yeah.
I will share a lot of stuff about what I do. Like, I'm pretty much an open book, but whenever it comes to getting rid of your fur nowadays, I'm a little bit more secretive about it, I guess you would call it.
Okay.
Just because the markets are so much harder to find,
Right.
So I've got a couple pretty good markets, and it's basically, well, you can see like what I got. Like, everything up there's a 2X or bigger.
Yeah.
And that's the market that I have. I have a market for a number of 2X or bigger coons, and that's what I'm selling. I'll say that I'm mainly selling to garment makers, and that covers like people that's doing like throws, blankets, mitts, things like that. And they have entrusted me to kind of self-grade my stuff. They know the size. I've been dealing with this one lady for now. This is my 3rd year dealing with her. And basically I am sending her the finished fur to where she's going to tan it. So, or send it off to be tanned, I guess, or process it how she wants, know. So I'm still dealing with finished fur, same as what I've always done. Just, well, for instance, like you can see, I used to pleat all my tails. I'm not pleating my tails anymore, right? There's no reason to do that. There's just a few little things that I'm not doing. I don't wash my fur anymore, unless it's super muddy. I used to be very diligent. Whenever I sold the NAPA, I would wash every pelt that I sent up there because I could. I mean, maybe there's discrepancy, but I feel like I saw a big difference in whenever I would wash that fur and send up clean fur. I mean, some guys would tumble it too, but I always just washed it versus sending up dirty fur.
Right.
And I really believe that it made me more money by doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that now because I don't need to, so it's just one less step that I'm not gonna do. I mean, I'm not gonna skin him board a mud ball of a coon. I'll wash him off in the creek and rake him out. But as far as going through the whole step of like putting him in the washing machine and drying him like I used to, I don't do that. So there's a few things that I'm doing a little bit different just because I don't feel like I need to.
Right.
But my markets are, I guess, smaller. Like I said, I only have a set amount of stuff that I'm gonna get rid of, and I'm not gonna go out and trap a bunch of stuff that I can't get rid of. I guess you said there is a little bit of a coon market. I don't know if I've kind of set myself up for this market this year, at least what I'm going to go to. I get that question more times than not now. And there's markets out there for fur. There's a lot more. And we're just talking about the fur market right now, but I mean, there's a lot of other markets too. Like the essence market with the skunks, the fat, the skulls. There's a lot of different markets out there that you can still make money on. You got to do a couple more steps, but for the coons anyway, that's what I've got. The coyotes, you see back there. Well, that's another thing with coyotes. So all my coyotes, you see, I don't turn them fur out anymore.
Right.
They're all fur in because they're all being tanned. and I'm skinning everything with all 4 feet on. So I've got a market for that too, where it's I guess call it a middleman or whatever, but I'm sending it to somebody who's selling them for wall hangers with all 4 feet.
Right.
So that's one of those other things where it's not worth my time to flip them because they're just going to go be tanned, and in this market they're not going to be graded, so to speak, like you would sell your fur raw. Guy just wants coyotes. So, and he's kind of entrusted me in, so I'm not going to send him a bad rubbed coyote, obviously, or, one that's missing fur or anything like that. But yeah, if I don't have to flip them stupid things, I'm not going to,
Right.
especially if I'm leaving all 4 feet on them, so.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a few things that's changed versus, selling, finished fur back in, because I always sold to Napa. That's who I always sold to back in the
Right.
day. So.
Right. That we take in a lot of stuff to be tanned for people. We do the tanning for people. We send the tanning out, but we do all the skinning and all that. On beavers, we just lay them flat on the floor and salt them down. We don't even.
Yeah.
We're not even. You don't even have to stretch them. So
yeah.
There's some things you can do to save some time, like you're doing, because that's a different market. The other thing is that they're at the trapper sales, the association sponsored fur sales, which there's a few of those out there. If those I call them craft buyers, if the craft buyers show up, whether they're self-manufacturing or selling wall hangers or whatever, that always picks up that the prices.
Helps,
yeah. So
helps us sell big time.
Yeah, because I mean they a lot of times, at least in my experience, you don't have to have I can sell a rusty 2X Coon for the same price as I can sell a nice clear,
Right.
silvery Coon. So I mean it's not, because you got to figure the people buying these aren't worried about that. You want something to hang on their wall, or like I said, in the instance of making a throw or a blanket or something like that, So.
Right.
Yeah, I'm judging I guess you could say I'm judging my catch more on size, just to hit that,
Yeah.
that kind of end market versus, I don't know. It changes from year to year. I mean, like I said, there's definitely markets out there. You just got to do a little bit more looking around and work, I mean, I've contacted a lot of people to get the markets that I have, but it is a market, and I will say, I mean, I'm gonna make money on fur this year. So I mean, I know a lot of people complain, about low fur prices, this, that, and the other, and I'm not saying I'm making a killing on it, but I mean, I'm still gonna make money selling fur this year. So
Right.
So what's the lady's name and number?
yeah, I'll text that to you, and you can just plaster it up right there on the banner so everybody can call it. Yeah, if you put a little bit of effort and work into it, man, there's a lot of people out there that's looking for, and it's not just trappers. Like I said, you get into those novelty markets, it's the people that, like the seamstresses and stuff. They're not going to go out and trap. They just want to buy that raw fur,
Right.
So
Right.
you're not looking. You got to look abroad, so to speak.
We have a friend that comes in the shop, and she's into this stuff, but then she kind of markets like skulls and stuff, and she goes to like these witch conventions and stuff that's really on the kind of on the fringe, but she does really well.
Yeah, you just think outside the box, and I mean it's.
So Stu, tell us about this bobcat that you caught. You posted it on your show, but that thing, when you were holding that up with the belly out, it looked like one that we'd caught in New Mexico. And the wide white belly with the clarity of the spots, and that thing looked awesome. And then the back of it's.
Yeah, it's one of the best cats that I've ever seen around here.
Yeah,
hands down. And that I never posted videos. I mean, Illinois has a bobcat season, obviously, and for obvious reasons, I never posted handling other people's fur. I didn't want to have somebody take things the wrong way. But I had seen a lot of bobcat, or not a lot, but several bobcats, because people bring them to me to have them skinned out, that do have the tags too. And then obviously I've caught a lot of them, over the years. And that's one I'm pretty proud of that one. The coolest thing is that I caught this bobcat last year and I released it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the coolest thing. And I've got all that on film documented. So I actually, well, funny, it was whenever I was filming the video for the small critter trapping package that we did last year. Whenever I was filming that video, I caught this same cat and caught him in a 1.5 blind set, and I released him. And then I actually got film of this same cat early December, and I caught this thing on New Year's Eve. But I got film of this same cat early December in the deer stand, walking through. I was sitting there, and I don't know, like we see a lot of cats here, but you can almost tell whenever a bobcat's coming through because the squirrels just go absolutely nuts, right? I mean, they know that thing's in the area. And I was sitting there and playing on my phone, obviously, because that's all you do whenever you hunt anymore, and play on your phone. But all of a sudden I heard squirrels go nuts, and I look up, and there that cat is sitting there on a log. And I pull out my camera real quick and got footage of him, and then 3 weeks later come in and caught the exact same cat. So that was really cool to bring that all together. I've always said, we've been catching cats around here for a lot of years, and our ground is broken up so much where it's like big agriculture, and then there'll be like maybe a 5, 10, 20 acre plot of timber or ground, that's separated. And that's where those cats live around here. And once they get established in that one area, they're there every year. Those cats have a very, very tiny home range. And I've always thought that. And then what was kind of cool, I've been, just from seeing that, because you can go in and catch this. I know plots of timber that I can go in and catch cats year after year after year. Obviously, I got to release them, but you just put those things together. And then whenever I was out west a few years ago with Ranella, he actually, because he's well versed in this with all his friends, he was actually able to show some data that they had pulled up on collared cats. And it was super cool to see, to look at that data, and you would not believe the home ranges of these cats. I mean, they are just so tiny. So that just kind of verified what I'd been, experimenting with and experiencing over the years too. So yeah, I caught this same cat. I caught it about 100 or about 75 yards from where I caught it last year.
So
that's awesome.
So are they as I'm assuming that they probably are to a point. Are they as territorial as coyotes then? Or did he know that?
I don't know. I don't know if we even talked about that, honestly.
Yeah.
I remember him saying that the females were a lot tighter, and then the toms, they would range a little bit more.
Yeah.
But if I recall, and I don't quote me, if I recall, it was the female that had the territory. She had her own little range, and then it was the toms or the males were the ones that were kind of roaming around.
Yeah.
But it was the females that kind of kept their own tight little home range more so. But yeah, I mean, that just goes to show. I mean, caught the same cat 75 yards from, 1 year apart, basically. That's, and I mean, I know it's the same cat because I got the spots. You can look at it. To me, it's that, and the fact I've never seen a spotted cat like that around here. So for the fact to have 2 of them like that, pretty rare. So
yeah, that cat's very easily identifiable. If it was the traditional kind of rabbit back, bobcat, then you'd make, well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But this one, yeah, that one definitely is a standout. So do you have planned? What are you going to do with it? You going to have it tanned or mount it or keep it in it or?
Yeah, so I've got it skinned out right now, and I skinned it out all 4 feet, split the ears on it, and I'm just gonna tan it up and make a wall hanger out of it. I'm not real big into the whole mountain thing. I would just, they're cool, obviously, but yeah, I think, at least just for me, I think to be able to hang it up on the wall and say there it is, and I don't know. That's what I got plans for it now.
Yeah.
So like I said, I skinned it out all 4 feet. I'm not sure if I'll keep the front feet on it or not, because you want to see that good belly. So I figure I might as well skin it all out the same way, and then if I get it tan and I want to, cut the front feet off a little bit more to see visual, then I can. But yeah, right now I'm just gonna make it a wall hanger.
Yeah.
Add it to my little collection of, prized pelts that I've got on the wall. So
Yeah. If you want to keep the feet on without cutting the feet off, just fold them inside, still get the full belly. That way you don't lose any, just in case
yeah,
change your mind on
yeah.
something.
Yeah, that's why I said I'll just skin it out all 4 feet. It's easier to take them off later if I don't like it than you're not going to add them on. So
Yeah.
but no, and like I said, that's a good idea. That's probably what I'll do because no, that was a special cat for sure. That was super cool how it all came together.
Right. Well, we appreciate you jumping on and filling us in. Everyone's been so busy with at work and other people's trap lines. It's just like, I don't know. I don't consume too much on the internet these days, but I've seen some of your videos. I haven't been down all the rabbit hole from this season, so thanks for filling me in.
I'm the same way, man. I have the exact like people like I don't watch YouTube. I mean, really, and it's not for the fact it's just I may catch up on it at the end of season or something, but yeah, everybody kind of goes their own way for that 3-month time, and then everybody regroups at the end because it's a busy time of year for sure. So
yeah. Anything else you want to add, Charlie?
I think appreciate you being on, Stu. So no, I don't have anything else specific, but
yeah.
No, this was a blast. This was fun.
Hopefully, we'll see you this summer if you make it out to a convention. We'll be set up.
Oh yeah, we're coming.
The nationals.
We're yeah, I don't know what the summer what Sioux Falls looks like, but if not, definitely gonna be coming to the rendezvous. So
well, I appreciate for those of you that haven't been to our fur taker rendezvous that's at our place at Hoosier Trapper, Stu's has come over the past couple of years. So for anybody,
that's a fun day.
Yeah, that's a good fun day. So
no, that's super fun. So
all right, man. Well, we'll catch you later, and thanks again.
Yep, appreciate it.
No, appreciate you having me.